Right, this is an extract from Wordsworth's epic poem, The Prelude. Now, I must be the only English teacher in the world that doesn't really like this poem. There is any other English teacher I speak to who says it's a thing of beauty, it's a masterpiece. I'm not so sure. I'm going to try and be as nice about it as I possibly can, and let's go through what we might say about it for our exam. So, just like normal, I'm going to arts raw it to make sure we've got something to say about each of the poetic choices that Wordsworth has made in this extract of his epic poem. So, what is it about? This is an autobiographical poem about a time that Wordsworth stole a boat and went out into the lake. So this is a true story from his childhood. He takes the time to explore the intimidating wonder of nature while he's on his little boat, but then he reaches his destination that he's trying to get to, and actually he finds out that it wasn't as exciting as he was hoping it to be, it wasn't as nice as what he hoped, and actually it was a place of darkness and desertion, and he's troubled for it by days. So this whole thing here is a metaphor for life, and how the reality of our life is not what you expect it to be. Now, if you want my personal honest opinion, I think that is a terrible message to be giving our GCSE students, to be honest. Why would we be telling the young people today that their aspirations, their dreams, their things they want to work towards are actually not going to happen, and when you get there, they're not going to be as beautiful and as glorious as you hope they're to be? Damn well, I hope you have a little bit more optimism, a little bit more faith in your life than what this poem is trying to tell you. And I hope you read it, I hope you learn it, I hope you write about it in your essay, and then I hope you take this message and rip it up, throw it away, and I hope you have an ambition and a desire for your life that you stick to a little bit more than this. So, what is power and conflict is shown? This shows the power of nature, the power of disappointment because it's not as good as we hoped it was going to be, but it also shows the power of loneliness because it's such a lonely, desperate place where he ends up. It also shows the conflict of expectation versus reality, what he hoped for life and what it really was like are two very different things. It also shows the conflict of power of nature and the vulnerability of man, but it also shows the conflict of light versus dark, and there is that symbolism all the way through this poem. So, what's Wordsworth's key messages? Critically, the reality of life is not what you hope or expect. As I say, poo-poo that message as soon as your GCSEs are finished. The power of our desires and ambition can be undone by the power of disappointment and loneliness, so i.e. our hurt trumps our ambition and our happiness. Even hard work, resilience and commitment doesn't always lead to success and happiness, despite all of his efforts to try and get across the lake and to try and be there, what he doesn't find is that happiness that he thought he would. And all of this has the power to stay with us and shape our life. So, first technique I'll be looking at here is this simile. Wordsworth uses a simile of being like a swan to reflect his achievement of going through life on this boat. So like a swan, it looks really calm and serene and gentle on the outside, but actually under the surface, this swan is struggling, it's working hard, his little feet is going 2,000 miles an hour, trying to keep up, trying to work hard to make himself go across the lake. So this shows how life is not as easy as what we think it would be. But I also look at as well that swans are one partner in life. If you see a swan on their own, they've lost their partner. They're never going to find another one. And often when swans lose their partner, they then die of heartbreak. They're extremely emotionally attached to their partner. So if Wordsworth is going out like a single swan all on its own, reflects he is dangerously away from his support and his comfort, and therefore the negative consequences are almost going to be inevitable if he hasn't got people to help him around him. I'd also look at this symbol of a darkness. When he gets there, there hung a darkness. So this represents the loneliness and the disappointment that was waiting for him in life. But darkness is also all around us. You can't just have a little bit of darkness. It is completely dark. So this shows the same way his loneliness and his disappointment was also all-encompassing and consuming. I'd also look at the verb hung. So this demonstrates how he had no control over it because it's just hanging over there. He couldn't actually touch it or control it. It just hung there. So therefore nature has more power than him. Being hung also connotes to a violence and suffering. If you're hung, you're being tortured, you're dying painfully. So therefore that reflects how his experience, the reality of life, is something that hurts him and kills him. Do you see what I mean about this message? It's not a very nice message. Then I'll look at the structure. So this is blank verse, this poem. So there's no rhyme scheme or regular structure. So this makes it sound like a conversation, reflecting how personal the story is, showing how the power that it's had over him, the power it has to hurt him. We've also got lots and lots of ands. If you look particularly towards the end as well, and through the meadows, and serious mood, and growing still. So all these ands reflect the breathlessness of the poignancy of the moment, how the fact that he gets there, and when he realises what the reality of life is like, he becomes quite breathless, he's got lots of things he wants to say about it. He ends up having to spill out lots and lots of information very, very quickly because he wants to share it with you. So this shows how deeply affected he has been by it, shows the power of the experience to shape him and change him as a person. So word choices. The first one I'd look at is this one. The fact he uses a noun of boat and this symbolism of the idea of him being on a little boat going across this river of life, this lake of life. So this symbolises his journey. The fact it's little shows the boat lacks power and strength, but it's all he has to face life. Just like all we have is ourselves. We are vulnerable and we are weak compared to the dangers that life can pose to us. Now this juxtaposes the strength and might of the surrounding nature around the lake, reflects how inferior he is and how weak he is against the realities of life, but it also reflects the skill and the patience that is needed in order to succeed. The fact that he takes his little boat and gets it all the way across the lake takes skill and patience and shows what we need to do if we want to make our life a success. I would then look at this adjective and this noun here of craggy ridge to describe the cliffs around, but it's also the key that he fixed his view on this ridge. This is where he was heading, this is where he wanted to go towards on his little boat in the lake. So this reflects the intimidating strength and power of the surrounding nature if it's like a craggy ridge, but it also shows that this is his focus, so it reflects the impossibility of the dream. If that ridge, if you can't get a boat up a ridge, you can't get up there, can you? So this shows that it was impossible for him to reach where he wanted to reach. So it's inevitable that the reality of life was going to be dark and unpleasant. And the harsh sound here, craggy, and not very nice sounds, are they? They're harsh sounds, reflects the unpleasantness and the hostility of the life we have. Now alliteration, there's not any nice kind of alliteration like two words next to each other with the same letter, but instead I'd look at the sounds that have been created. Now at the start we have a euphony, which means there's quite a soft sound. Think pushed from the shore, stealth, pleasure, mountain echoes. These are very soft sounds, so that reflects how it seems quite gentle and easy at the start. He's quite comfortable with his life. He thought he had a really overly positive outlook on it. But then by the end we've got these harsh, unpleasant sounds. We've got covert, tree, bark, engrave. These are far more harsher sounds that we don't like. So that shows that when we get there, when we see what reality of life is far more harsh, it's far more unpleasant, and this is echoed by the sounds he uses to describe it. Finally, in terms of rhythm and rhyme, there is iambic pentameter throughout this poem, so there's that 10 beats per line that we've mentioned before. So this reflects the order and the control that he had over his life and the ease in which he thought he would pass through it. But it also reflects the peace and the tranquility of the natural setting, because there is a calmness and there is a routine to it. However, this iambic pentameter becomes increasingly fractured towards the end as he understands that he actually doesn't have the same control over his destiny that he thought he did at the start.